More than 10 domestic flights have been affected after the Civil Aviation Authority grounded some South African Airways and Comair planes. SAA says 4 flights were cancelled this morning.
It's now combined flights and deployed bigger aircraft to accommodate affected passengers. 8 British Airways and 1 Kulula flight were affected. Passengers have been advised to check the status of their flights before going to the airport. The Civil Aviation Authority says affected Comair and SAA aircraft cannot take to the skies until issues identified by it have been resolved. Airports company South Africa says it's working with the airlines on their contingency plans and on the potential impact on operations. Well, for more on this story, we cross to our reporter, Mbalenhle Mthethwa, who's been standing by for us at the OR Tambo International Airport. Mbalenhle, thanks very much for joining us. So I understand that you have Tladi by your side. Tell us what's happening where you are.
Good afternoon, Nompu. Definitely, I do have Tladi to speak to us about what's been happening since this morning. However, before I go into that interview, I have spoken to a very angry Krupashen Naidu, who is one of the commuters who missed his international flight and connecting flight to Sao Paulo. And he says this was as a result of delays coming in from Durban. He said he was delayed for an hour and a half, and he's got proof of those flights that he has missed. And he says he's not the only one. There were 2 others and other individuals who were coming in from Durban. But to talk to us about how SAA is going to be trying to help passengers such as Krupashen Naika is Tladi. Thank you so much for speaking to us. I understand that this is a crisis that has been averted and that has been well managed to a certain extent. But what happens to people who have missed their connecting flights due to delays within the regions?
Thank you for the opportunity. Would like to indicate and state it for the record that ever since we became aware that there would have a number of aircraft that would be recalled, we took steps and activated our contingency measures, on the basis of which we were able to accommodate quite a number of passengers who were traveling between a number of points in the country. And we would like to indicate that it is possible that some passengers may have been affected, and under such circumstances, the airline will take steps in order to ensure that they are accommodated through a number of other options. These include finding accommodation for them to travel on the next available date when their flights are available. Alternatively, to ensure that we facilitate a process where we get bookings for them on other airlines that are operating on the same sectors where SAA will be operating.
And how do passengers get access to that kind of assistance? Because this particular passenger is very angry, and he's saying that he has to fly back to Durban and possibly book another flight for Sao Paulo on his way to Panama, where he works.
We do appreciate the situation, and we empathize with the customer, and we attend our apologies insofar as that is concerned. However, we have processes in place. We will encourage these customers to reach out and to make contact with us, and where we know about these passengers and we have their details, we will contact them directly, or we'll make contact with them via their travel agents if their bookings were made through the travel agents, and for them to consider. Under certain specific circumstances, there are rules that apply where you deal with matters where a situation of an inconvenience, if it was not occasioned by the customer, the airline responsible will take some responsibility and will ensure that it restores the position of the customer to where it was had there been no interruptions or flight delays. So this is one of those matters where we will have to take steps. However, one must hasten to indicate that by and large, our flights were operating because the contingency measures that we put in place ensured that we have a minimum number of flights that were impacted. In this instance, we can indicate that during the peak period this morning, we only had 4 domestic flights that were impacted. Even at that level, the measures that we had in place, we were able to accommodate flights and deploy bigger aircraft where we were able to accommodate many more passengers who were able ultimately to travel, and their travel plans were not interrupted.
And what were the reasons cited by the Civil Aviation Authority for grounding some of the flights that were grounded this morning?
This needs to be understood in the context of the responsibility of the Civil Aviation Authority as the regulator, where they have the responsibility to conduct inspections. Some of them are scheduled, others are unscheduled. In this instance, they were also conducting an oversight inspection. That was also coupled by an audit process where they were able to make an audit finding involving one aircraft. And on the basis of that, it became necessary for the operators to subject some of their aeroplanes to a process that is called compliance verification in order to ensure that those aeroplanes that are operating that have not been through that process are indeed certified as being compliant, that they are safe, and therefore when they are airworthy, then they are legally able to carry passengers and cargo from one point to another.
So this is my final question. We are aware of new allegations in the media that the technical arm, SAA's technical arm, has been using counterfeit counterfeit parts on aircraft. This was in some of the Sunday newspapers. What are your views about these allegations?
That is one unfortunate story that was published by one weekend newspaper, which newspaper was able to retract that part in the following week's edition, where they indicated that there is no such a thing. It is in writing for all and sundry to see for themselves. Every single component that we make use of in the context of repairing and maintaining our aircraft comes from the original equipment manufacturer. Its history can be traced both with us here as well as the OEM, and we are able to account for it. One of the reasons why a regulator would conduct inspections is to establish exactly that. In this instance, the regulator has not come out to indicate that the components or the parts that we use to maintain our fleet, our aircraft, they are fake, they are grey. There is no such a determination or finding. So it is a story that went wrong by the publication, and they had to retract that particular statement.
But you do understand that it stemmed from an event that took place where a Mango airline had to come back here to Ora Tambo for an emergency landing, and that's what sparked the conversation around these allegations.
Sometimes in an effort to make an analysis of situations, we embark on the process of trying to connect the dots, and we force the dots to connect even when they don't. The incident that involved a Mango plane is a separate incident which is under investigation currently by the regulator, and as we also indicate, insofar as the parts and components are concerned, there is no finding that we are using a.
All right, unfortunately, we've lost connection.